Assalamu alaikum everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining why I am bullish on these dips. Hope you guys enjoy. Reason number one is seasonality. So as you can see, generally the months of September and October are both end up being bearish, especially heading into the election year. Dips in the months of September and October are generally very, very good buying opportunities for the end of the year, especially heading into election years. So what I essentially want to do, the main premise here, is wait for dips and start getting into March, April calls of 2025, essentially, and wait for the bounce. That, I believe, is going to be the way to play the market over the next few months. Reason number two are the large tech stocks as well as the main indices are starting to get a bit overextended to the downside, according to the advanced decline indicator. So generally, when this indicator becomes very red, sharply falling, you could see many times in history that whenever it gets to these points, it signals a bottom in the market and a bounce. So currently, there is still more room to go for this indicator on NVDA, for example. We could pull it up on anything. The SPY as well. So all of these, this is just the SPY. I just looked at NVIDIA real quick just to drive home the point. This indicator is starting to show weakness. Generally, when that weakness continues into proper levels of bounces in the past, it will indicate a potential buying opportunity in the indices eventually. So this is reason number two. It's starting to head there. Reason number three, regardless of the advanced decline indicator, large tech stocks in general are really starting to show a lot of weakness, especially Google, for example, starting to close and open outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Bands. We know that when this happens in history, especially with large trillion-dollar companies, this leads to bounces. Historically, whenever we fall outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Bands, it leads to bounce opportunities. Google still has more room to fall. So this is not by any means an automatic Hail Mary into longs, but it's starting to get there. So just keep your eyes on good long opportunities. Now, on the SPX specifically, the levels that I really want to see a retest of is 54.55, like basically 54.56 area, right? And then I also want to see a retest of 53.70. So if we can get some sort of dip buying opportunities there, what I'm assuming would end up happening for Google, Apple is showing weakness as well. This would allow all of these large tech stocks to get a bit of a dip, which would also allow the S&P, the NASDAQ to also drop a bit more dramatically. It would cause, you could see the upper level of the Bollinger Bands and the lower level of the Bollinger Bands are starting to contract. This would give an opportunity for a bit of a choppy movement, essentially like this. And down here would be much better buying opportunities. The most unfortunate situation that would occur is if we end up just holding this 550 level on the SPY and making new all-time highs. That is 100% possible. The main levels that I would look to short to the upside is around 575, somewhere between 580 and 590. Because once we get, so just now, here's my thought process. Once we get to 575, everyone is going to be very, very bullish. There is going to be talks for 600 on the SPY, 600. The more people that are going to be just blatantly bullish, this could end up happening by Q1 of 2025, which is another reason why all of these dips for the months of September, October, maybe even we might dip in a bit lower in November. All of these are dip buying opportunities for the months of April, May, essentially. So that's really it. At the moment, we clearly saw a huge move to the downside in the SPX in the overall market. We could see BlackRock essentially and bank stocks doing really, really well. But we're seeing a bit of a pullback in those as well. But in general, BlackRock still looks really strong. The Russell looks really, really strong as a result as well. Compared to, the NASDAQ looks really, really strong compared to the Russell. And the NASDAQ had a really, really big drop, primarily because of chips. So once again, we might get a bounce, but overall, things should be falling a bit lower. It should be falling a bit lower on Google. It should be falling a bit lower on Apple. It should be falling a bit lower on everything. So, that is my ideal situation. I would love to see this advanced decline indicator drop a bit lower, and that would give some time for the market to get overextended to the downside. But again, guys, it's becoming a bit too easy. It's becoming a bit way too easy. So, yeah, let's see how weak and with how much veracity we get a move to the downside. That's going to be the main thing. All right, so the more ferocious the move to the downside is, it'll catch a lot of people off guard, and people will not necessarily be ready or willing to buy the dip as much. So, yeah, it should be a pretty interesting. Next few weeks. We all know the market is going to be bearish, during September, October. Generally, that's what seasonality shows, but this is a perfect opportunity for them to run it up both ways. It would be a perfect opportunity for them to run it into new all-time highs off here. I have not entered into any long-term calls based off of this drop yet. I'm waiting for the safest opportunities, essentially a bit lower. But, it just becomes way too easy. Once we drop lower, it becomes way too easy. And I'm always skeptical of the ease in the market. So we're going to have to see how it is. We're going to have to experience what we feel during that time. One other thing is every single time we've had monster moves to the downside, when I was very, very bullish. I was very, very bullish during this drop. I told everyone to buy the dip. What were we feeling during this moment? We felt extreme fear, anxiety, because something like this never occurs generally in the market. So this is new. And because it's new, buying the dip becomes much more difficult. But it ends up being one of the best situations to buy the dip. We saw through all of the conflict news and the Bank of Japan information that was coming out and everything. We saw through all of that, and we bought the dip. So I want situations where it becomes very difficult to go long. That's why I keep saying it's too easy. So it would be too easy to go long here. I want extreme tough situations. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If there are new things to update, I will update them accordingly. All right. Love you guys. Have a good one. Take care.